I noticed it when I dropped a spoon. It hit the kitchen floor harder than I expected, loud, in a room that's usually quiet now. I stood there longer than I needed to, staring at it like it had asked me a question I didn't know how to answer. For a moment, I honestly couldn't remember why I'd come into the kitchen in the first place. That scared me more than the spoon. My name is Thomas Hale. I'm 82 years old. And I think I'm running out of time in a way that feels different from before. I've been old for a while now. You don't wake up one day and suddenly you're 82. It creeps in slowly. First, you notice the stairs feel steeper. Then people stop asking for your opinion unless it's about the past. Then one day you realize most of the people who knew you when you were young are already gone, and the ones who remain sound tired when they talk. I've lived a full life, at least that's what I've always told people. 40 years working as an electrical engineer, a marriage that lasted 37 years, 2 children, a house that's been paid off longer than some people have been alive. I've shaken hands with men who are dead now. I've buried my parents. I've watched entire neighborhoods change names and accents. I've had time, more than I realized. I keep an old cardboard box in the hallway closet. It's nothing special, no label, just a box that's followed me through 3 moves. Last winter, when the nights got longer and the house felt heavier, I opened it for the first time in years. Inside were things I didn't remember saving. A cracked leather wallet I used in my 20s, movie ticket stubs with faded ink, a photograph of my wife, Anna, sitting on the hood of my first car, laughing at something I can't remember saying. I sat on the floor with that box for a long time. I met Anna when we were both 24. She worked at the front desk of a dentist's office. I came in for a cleaning I didn't really need. I remember noticing the way she pronounced my name, like she was trying it on to see if it fit. We married 2 years later in a small church with uncomfortable pews and coffee that tasted burned. I promised her a steady life. I meant it. And for the most part, I delivered. I worked long hours. I brought home a paycheck every Friday. I fixed the leaky sink myself instead of calling someone. I was proud of being dependable, reliable, the kind of man who didn't make waves. What I didn't realize was how quiet I was becoming. I remember one night clearly. Our kids were young, already asleep. Anna was sitting at the kitchen table, folding laundry, the radio playing low. She looked tired in a way I'd started to ignore. She told me she felt lonely, not abandoned, just lonely. I nodded. I said I understood. I told her work had been stressful. I kissed her on the forehead and went to bed early. I still see her hands pausing over a folded shirt when I think about that moment. There were so many moments like that. Small, ordinary, easy to dismiss. I told myself there would be time later. After the next promotion, after the kids were older, after things settled down. Things always seemed to need settling. Anna got sick in her early 60s. Nothing dramatic at first. Just fatigue. Appointments. Words doctors used carefully. I drove her to treatments. I sat in waiting rooms with magazines I didn't read. I learned how to cook a few basic meals when she couldn't stand for long. I thought I was doing everything right. She died on a Tuesday morning in March. Rain tapping softly against the hospital window. I was holding her hand when it happened. It was warm. Still very much her. And then it wasn't. After the funeral, people told me I'd been a good husband, a solid man. I nodded and thanked them. It felt easier than correcting them. The house changed after that. Not immediately, slowly. Rooms lost their purpose. The sound of the television filled spaces where conversations used to be. I stopped cooking real meals and started eating whatever was easiest. Time became something I passed instead of something I used. My children call less often than they used to, but they call. They have lives, jobs, families. They tell me about promotions and school events and weekend plans. I listen. I tell them I'm fine. I tell them about the nights when I sit in the dark, because turning on a lamp feels like admitting I am still here. There's a park a few blocks from my house. Anna and I used to walk there on Sunday mornings. There's a bench near the pond with chipped green paint. Last summer, I sat there alone and watched a young couple argue quietly. They looked tired, impatient with each other. I recognized the posture, the distance that isn't distance yet. They left without sitting down. I stayed. That's when it finally started to settle in. Not all at once. Just a slow understanding that I had spent decades believing life was something I could postpone paying attention to. That if I kept everything stable, everything would somehow feel complete later. Later turned out to be a very quiet place. I don't regret my career. I don't regret providing for my family. Those things mattered. But I misunderstood something important along the way. I thought showing up was enough, that being present in the room counted the same as being present in the moment. I missed chances I didn't know were chances at the time, conversations I could have stayed in a little longer, questions I could have asked instead of answering with silence, afternoons I could have wasted without feeling guilty. No one took those moments from me. I handed them over willingly, convinced I was doing the responsible thing. Now, my days are mostly routines. Morning coffee, a short walk if my knees allow it, lunch that tastes fine but not memorable. Sometimes I talk to Anna out loud, not in a dramatic way, just comments, observations, things I never said when it would have mattered. I'm not angry. That surprises people when I tell them. I don't feel cheated. I feel aware, like someone who finally understands the rules of a game just as it's ending. The hardest part isn't the loneliness. It's realizing how much tenderness I carried around without using. How careful I was with my words when I should have been careless. How often I waited to feel ready. Readiness is a quiet liar. It sounds reasonable, patient. It keeps you calm while time slips past. When I dropped that spoon, what scared me wasn't forgetting. It was the thought that soon there will be no one left who remembers the sound of my laugh when I was younger, or the way Anna used to roll her eyes when I told the same story twice. Memories don't disappear all at once. They thin out. They lose witnesses. I don't know how much longer I have. None of us ever really do, but at my age the guessing feels more serious. I wanted to say this while my voice is still steady, while I can still choose my words. If there's any truth I've earned, it's a quiet one. Life doesn't usually fall apart. It just drifts. And drift is harder to notice until you're far from where you thought you'd be. I sit in the same chair every evening now, the one by the window. I watch the streetlights come on. Sometimes I imagine all the lives passing under them, busy, distracted, convinced they're in the middle of something important. Maybe they are. I just hope they notice when someone tells them they're lonely, or when a moment asks them to stay a little longer. That's all I wanted to say. If any of this stirred something in you, you can sit with it for a while, or share a thought, if you feel like it. I'll be here, listening.